I never thought a casual Sunday dinner at the lake house would unravel everything. It was supposed to be simple: roasted chicken, small talk, maybe a stroll down by the dock before heading back to my place in Coeur d'Alene. But instead, I found myself staring at my father, Russell Ellison, whose face was red with fury as he paced the living room like a man betrayed. "How could you be so selfish?" he barked, thrusting a folded piece of paper toward me. "Your sister needs this money to get her business off the ground. You have more than enough." I blinked, still gripping my half-full iced tea glass, unsure what I'd just walked into. The paper he'd thrown on the coffee table was a property tax bill for the lake house. Again, the same bill I'd paid for the past 5 years. "Dad," I said, my voice tight but steady, "I've been paying for everything. The taxes, Brielle's car payments, Mom's surgery when insurance didn't cover it. Even the family trips you said we could all enjoy. I never asked for anything in return, but I can't keep doing this forever." My mom, Elaine, sat hunched on the edge of the sofa, hands folded so tightly her knuckles were white. She refused to meet my gaze. That cut deeper than my father's shouting ever could. "We gave you everything growing up," Russell snapped, ignoring every word I'd just said. "And now that we need you, you're abandoning us? While Brielle's trying to build something for herself?" I stared at him, stunned. All those years, every extra dollar I had, every vacation I skipped, every indulgence I denied myself, had gone to keep this family afloat. And still, it wasn't enough. That's when something caught my eye. Beneath a glossy boating magazine on the coffee table was an envelope, its corner just peeking out. The words were unmistakable. "Trust fund beneficiary, Brielle Ellison." I reached for it. "Naomi, that's private." Dad lunged to stop me, but it was too late. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope and scanned the contents. It was all there in legal black and white. A trust fund. $350,000 earmarked exclusively for Brielle, and more planned contributions in the years ahead. The same man who once told me, "College loans build character," when I begged for help paying my tuition, had built a nest egg for my sister. I felt like the floor had vanished beneath me. "When were you going to tell me?" I whispered, my chest tightening as everything, the years of imbalance, suddenly snapped into clarity. "All those times you said money was tight. All those times I scraped by on scholarships, worked late shifts, skipped meals, and you were saving this for her?" Russell snatched the envelope from my hands, stuffing it back beneath the magazine like the truth could be hidden again. "You weren't supposed to see that," he muttered. "Clearly," I replied, hollow. "I guess that explains why you never helped with my student loans. Or why Brielle got dance classes and private tutors while I got told to focus on academics." "She needed more support," Mom finally spoke, her voice soft and fragile, like a worn-out lullaby. "You've always been so independent, Naomi. You didn't need as much." The words knocked the breath from my lungs. I was being punished for doing well, for never asking for help, for surviving without it. "Is that what this is?" I said slowly, blinking back tears. "You reward her for needing you, and you resent me for not?" My father shifted uncomfortably. "Investment decisions aren't that simple, Naomi. We had to think about the family's future." "Just not mine," I said, my tone colder than I'd intended. "Let's talk about all those years of tight finances. The $8,700 a year in property taxes I paid. That $12,000 I dropped last summer on roof repairs. Brielle's car? I've covered every payment for 3 years. Medical expenses, flights, hotels, birthday trips you couldn't afford but booked anyway because Naomi will handle it." The room fell silent. For the first time, I saw something like guilt flicker across my mother's face. Russell cleared his throat and pushed the tax bill toward me again. "The taxes are due next month," he said, like none of what I said had registered. And the homeowners association raised their fees. The audacity made my jaw tighten. I looked down at the bill, then back at the man who saw me as a walking checkbook. "I'll take care of it," I said quietly. His shoulders relaxed. He didn't hear the resolve in my voice, didn't see that something in me had snapped, didn't understand that this was the last time I would ever pay for their silence. The drive back to my apartment was a blur. The usually calming snow-capped peaks now felt like witnesses to my humiliation. I'd been such a fool. For years. Once home, I ignored my phone ringing, likely my father calling to confirm I'd done the right thing, and opened the file I never thought I'd use. Family contributions, DocsXLSX, 5 years. Every payment, every invoice, every transfer. Property taxes, $43,500 Brielle's car, 11,680 roof repairs, $12,000 mom's knee surgery, $8,200. Family vacations, $22,400 total, $97,780 and counting. I sat there staring at the screen, sick to my stomach. Then my phone buzzed. "Brielle, Dad says you're being difficult about the taxes." "Don't be selfish, Naomi." Selfish. That word, from the one who'd benefited the most. My bitter laughter echoed in the quiet of my apartment. Another ping. "Dad, we're counting on you. Don't let us down." Not a thank you. Not a word of gratitude for years of support. Just another expectation. Another demand. I stared at those messages, the spreadsheet glowing behind them, and felt something new rise in my chest. Not guilt. Not shame. Power. The next morning, I called in sick to my home office. I didn't feel physically ill, but emotionally, I was raw, unsteady, and deeply aware that if I didn't act now, I never would. I needed clarity. I needed control. Most of all, I needed to understand the full cost of 5 years of silence. That's how I ended up in the quiet, wood-paneled office of Gavin Price, my financial advisor for the past 3 years. He was the first person I trusted with my portfolio, back when my crypto investments started gaining serious traction. As he looked over my printed spreadsheet of family contributions, Gavin's brow furrowed deeper with each page he turned. "This is extensive," he said, adjusting his glasses. "You've never asked to be repaid for any of this?" "No, they're family," I replied, my voice clipped. "I just wanted to help." Gavin looked up, expression unreadable. "Naomi, I have to be honest with you. Your generosity is admirable, but this is financially unsustainable. You're actively undermining your own future, enabling people who clearly don't respect your boundaries." "I know that now," I said, quieter. "I just found out they created a $350,000 trust fund for Brielle, while letting me cover all this." He sat back. "That changes everything." We spent the next 2 hours building a plan. Gavin connected me with a forensic accountant he trusted, Marcus Patel, a specialist in complex financial disputes and family asset tracing. I needed documentation. Not just numbers, but notarized statements, categorized receipts, lost investment opportunity analyses, the whole financial picture. "This could get messy," Gavin warned as we wrapped up. "Family money issues often do. Are you sure you want to go down this road?" I didn't even hesitate. "Yes, I'm done being their fallback plan." As I drove home, my thoughts reeled. I kept thinking about the coldness in my father's eyes when he'd handed me that tax bill. The way Brielle had called me selfish for setting limits. I had been nothing but giving, and they saw it as obligation, not choice. When I got home, my phone buzzed again. "Dad, taxes are due soon. Don't delay." "Brielle, they've done so much for you. This is how you repay them?" I silenced my phone. Let them stew in uncertainty. I owed them nothing more. 3 days later, I sat across from Marcus Patel at his downtown office. A meticulous man with salt and pepper hair and precise mannerisms, he flipped through my files with the speed and focus of a man who'd seen every financial scheme imaginable. Your record keeping is impeccable, he said. Most people don't retain half this documentation. You track like an auditor. It's the day trader in me, I replied. Every cent matters. He nodded, already highlighting totals on a legal pad. So what's the damage? I asked, bracing myself. Marcus slid a printed summary across the desk. Direct family contributions, 118, $745. Estimated lost investment growth, 14,915. Total opportunity cost, $133,660. I stared at the number. It was worse than I'd imagined, and yet seeing it on paper made the betrayal more concrete. It was no longer a vague sense of unfairness. It was provable. What do we do now? I asked. That depends, Marcus said. You can pursue legal restitution, though that's difficult without a written agreement. Or we can prepare a comprehensive financial statement, something you can use as leverage or simply as closure. Let's go with the second option, I said, for now. That night, I received the finalized document via email. Ellison Family Contributions, 2019-2024. Prepared by Marcus Patel, CPA Every Payment. Categorized by recipient and purpose. With a notarized statement verifying authenticity and a separate letter from Gavin, confirming the investment loss analysis. The next morning, the phone rang again. It was Mom. Naomi, she began, her voice too even to be casual. Your father's concerned. The property tax deadline is approaching. I know when it's due. Well, will you be taking care of it? You've always been so reliable about these things, she added sweetly. That last line did it. The casual assumption. The unspoken belief that I would always come through. The expectation that I'd be dependable, even as they hid a fortune for my sister. I'm not paying the taxes this year, I said quietly. Or any other family expenses. A stunned pause. But we're counting on you. The money's already been allocated, I said, keeping my tone neutral. To Brielle's trust fund, you mean? Another silence. Then, your father told me you saw that, she said softly. I understand now, I replied. I understand that while I was maxing out my cards to help you, you and Dad were quietly building a future for her. I understand that every time I asked for help and was told there was nothing left, it was a lie. It's not that simple, she whispered. No, Mom. It is. And I hung up. Then I turned off my phone. I knew the storm was coming, but I was done being the one to hold the umbrella for everyone else. The next morning, I sat at my desk and made 3 moves. Canceled the auto payment for Brielle's car. Removed myself as an authorized payer from all family-related accounts. Transferred $120,000 from my main investment fund to a new one labeled My Future. For the first time in years, I felt something shift. Not just relief, freedom. By noon, the fallout began. Text after text, missed calls, angry voicemails. Brielle. What the hell, Naomi? My car payment bounced. Are you trying to ruin my credit? Dad. This is completely unacceptable. Call me immediately. Mom. We're confused. We don't understand why you're doing this. Please, talk to us. But none of them mentioned the trust fund, or the years I'd carried them financially. They were only upset that I had stopped. I ignored it all. Later that afternoon, my building's security intercom buzzed. Ms. Ellison, your father is downstairs, the guard said. He's demanding to see you. I felt a jolt of nausea, then steeled myself. Tell him I'm unavailable, I said calmly. He said he won't leave until you come down. Then please call the police if necessary. A pause. Yes, ma'am. 20 minutes later, my cousin Jared texted me from across town. Just saw Uncle Russell being escorted out of your building. What's going on? You okay? I hadn't spoken to Jared in months. I'm fine. Family financial stuff. His reply surprised me. About time. The way they've treated you versus Brielle. Everyone sees it, not just you. I stared at the message, stunned. I'd always assumed no one else noticed the imbalance. I'd been wrong. It had been 5 days since I cut financial ties with my family. 5 days of silence from me. 5 days of escalating chaos from them. I had expected resistance. I had braced myself for guilt trips and tantrums. But I hadn't quite prepared for the delusion that even after everything had come to light, they still believed I would cave. That morning, I checked my email over coffee. Among the usual market updates was a message from my dad. Subject: Lake House taxes. Naomi, the taxes are now officially late. Late fees are accruing. We really need you to step up before this gets worse. Still no acknowledgement, no apology, not a single word about the $133,000 I'd documented contributing over 5 years. Just another invoice. Just another assumption that I'd clean up their mess. I closed the email and walked away from my desk. That same afternoon, I received an unexpected text from my cousin Jared. Naomi, I overheard something weird. Uncle Russell is telling people you've abandoned the family and that you're trying to sabotage them financially. He's even calling a family meeting this weekend to set the record straight. My stomach knotted. A family meeting? A smear campaign? Of course. When guilt didn't work, he'd move on to shame. You should come, Jared added. You need to defend yourself. I'll be there. You won't be alone. I stared at his message, heart racing. For so long I'd stayed quiet. I never wanted to make waves. I believed that my silence was noble, that sacrificing for family was strength, but all it had done was enable them. I took a deep breath and typed back, I'll be there. The day of the meeting arrived and I dressed like I was preparing for court. Black blazer, slacks, no jewelry except my watch, confidence armor. In my briefcase was everything: the notarized documents, spreadsheets, receipts, and Marcus Patel's formal summary of my contributions, not to attack, but to finally, publicly, clarify. As I pulled up to my parents' house, I could already see the family's SUVs parked along the curb. My heart pounded, but I pushed through it. Inside, the living room was full. Aunt Lydia and Uncle Ben sat stiffly by the fireplace, my cousin Kayla by the window, Jared near the back. My mom was seated beside Brielle, who looked like she hadn't slept. And there, standing in front of the fireplace like a disappointed CEO, was Russell. Naomi, he said as I entered, voice cool but tense. Glad you could make it. We were just discussing the lake house situation. I nodded once and walked to the coffee table, placing my briefcase down with precision. I'm sure you've provided everyone here with all the facts, I said calmly, opening the case. My father's jaw tightened. We're here to talk about your refusal to meet your family obligations. I glanced up. Interesting, because I've brought documentation of over $118,000 in obligations I've already met, and that's just in the last 5 years. The room stilled. I handed out copies of the summary, one to each relative in the room. Page 1 detailed my payments: property taxes, car notes, vacation expenses, medical bills. Page 2 outlined the lost investment value. Page 3 confirmed the trust fund for Brielle. I found out last week, I said, turning to the group. While I was being asked to pay another round of taxes, I discovered that my parents created a $350,000 trust fund for Brielle, exclusively for her. Murmurs spread across the room like ripples. My Aunt Lydia looked up sharply. What trust fund? I waited, gave my father a chance to speak. He didn't. Brielle's trust was set up several years ago, I said, while I was being told the family couldn't afford to help with my college or emergencies, while I was quietly footing every major expense. This is a private matter, my father snapped, color rising in his cheeks. You had no right to bring this to everyone. I had no right? I interrupted, voice steady. Dad, you've been misrepresenting me to the family. Jared told me you're calling this a betrayal, that I've abandoned you. My Uncle Ben stood up. Russ, is this true? My father looked cornered. We've done our best to support both our daughters. Except one daughter got the trust fund, Aunt Lydia said sharply, and the other got the bills. My mother shifted uncomfortably. Brielle remained silent, hands clenched in her lap. I didn't know it was that much, she mumbled. I turned to her. You didn't know because no one wanted you to. You just lived it. The extra help. The easy rides. While I spent years drowning quietly and being told to smile about it, the room was silent again. Then Jared, bless him, spoke. Naomi's been the one keeping this family afloat. And we all believed the story that she was just better with money. We didn't know the cost. My father opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. Instead, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not rage, not control. Fear. Fear that his version of the truth had finally collapsed. And then, something I never thought I'd see. Respect. The meeting ended not with shouting, but stunned silence. My father left the room, my mother close behind. Brielle stayed on the couch, face pale. As relatives lingered in quiet groups, Aunt Lydia came over, shaking her head. I always thought you had it easy, Naomi, she said. Greg made it sound like you didn't need help. I had no idea you were the one helping everyone else. I smiled, but it didn't quite reach my eyes. I didn't want recognition. I just wanted fairness. Uncle Ben chimed in. If you've paid the taxes on that house for 5 years, you deserve a stake in it. I don't want the house, I said quietly. I just want to be free. Jared walked me to the door. You did the right thing, whether they ever admit it or not. I nodded, my briefcase in hand. As I stepped outside, I felt the weight shift again. For the first time in my life, I hadn't just survived my family's manipulation. I had confronted it. 3 days after the family meeting, I received a message from my father. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a question. Just 4 words. The property taxes are due. I stared at the text in disbelief. After everything I'd exposed, after laying out $118,000 in contributions, after revealing the secret trust fund for Brielle, he still saw me as the responsible one, the default donor, the financial safety net. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up the photo I had taken of Marcus Patel's final report. My documented financial contributions over the past 5 years. I circled the total in red, 133,660, including the lost investment income, and sent the image to my father without a single word. Let the number speak for itself. An hour later, my phone rang. I half expected my dad's voice, full of anger or entitlement. Instead, it was Brielle. Naomi? She said, her voice low, almost hesitant. Dad just showed me the financial statement you sent. Is it really that much? Yes, I said flatly. Every penny, verified and documented. There was a pause on the other end. He told me you helped out here and there, she said, that you had extra money. I didn't know you were covering everything. Her voice cracked. And for the first time, I heard something unfamiliar from my sister. Genuine remorse. I feel awful, she whispered. I just assumed you were being kind. I didn't realize it was expected of you. I took a breath. It's not entirely your fault. Dad created the dynamic, but you benefited from it. You didn't question it. I know, she said, and I should have. Another pause, then, I'm going to fix this. I blinked. Fix what? But she had already hung up. The next morning, I received a certified letter from my father's attorney. Enclosed was a notarized notice. The property taxes for the lake house had been paid in full. Attached was a legal amendment to the house deed. Effective immediately, I now own 25% of the property. At the bottom of the page was a brief note from the attorney. Per client request, Brielle Ellison. Funds for tax payment and transfer of ownership were drawn from her trust. I stared at the paper, stunned. Brielle had used her own trust fund money to pay the overdue taxes and had transferred part ownership of the property to me. It wasn't just money, it was accountability. It was fairness. My phone buzzed again, this time another text from my father. This wasn't necessary. Family helps family. I didn't respond, because that sentence said it all. He still didn't get it. To him, all of this, my money, my time, my sacrifices, was never generosity. It was obligation. Later that night, I got a second message, this one from my mom. Your father is struggling with this, but I want you to know, I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I should have done the same years ago. I reread it twice. It didn't erase the damage, but it mattered. Especially coming from the woman who had sat in silence while I carried the family on my back. The next day, Brielle called again. I've spoken to Dad, she said. I told him the trust fund isn't fair. I asked him to split it evenly between us. I sat down, stunned. You did? He said no at first, she continued. But then Uncle Ben and Aunt Lydia backed me up. They cornered him. He's meeting with his financial advisor tomorrow to make the changes. My mouth was dry. It wasn't about the money anymore. Not really. It was about what the money represented. Acknowledgement. Respect. An end to the favoritism that had defined our lives. Thank you, Brielle, I said, voice soft. No, she replied. Thank you for making all of us finally see it. That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat out on my balcony. The sunset painted the Coeur d'Alene sky in amber and plum tones. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. Not a check, not an apology, not an explanation. I had reclaimed more than just financial boundaries. I had reclaimed my voice. 2 weeks passed. The Lake House property tax deadline came and went, and I didn't pay a cent. For the first time in years, I maintained radio silence with my parents. No phone calls, no texts, no check in the mail. I focused entirely on work and began rebuilding my financial goals with Gavin Price. Gavin helped me restructure my portfolio now that I wasn't hemorrhaging money into a bottomless pit labeled family obligations. It was staggering how much clearer my future became once I stopped playing the martyr. I increased my retirement contributions, started planning for a second investment property. I even explored the possibility of launching my own trading mentorship program. And yet, peace didn't last long. One afternoon, while reviewing positions in my home office, I received an email from Uncle Ben. Naomi, what's going on with Russell and the lake house? He just asked me for a $10,000 loan to cover penalties. Said you refuse to help anymore. That doesn't sound like you. I stared at the screen in disbelief. So that was the new plan. Beg from other relatives instead of touching the sacred trust fund he created for Brielle. Still pushing the narrative that I was abandoning the family. I took a deep breath, then calmly composed a response. I attached a PDF summary of my financial contributions over the last 5 years. Marcus Patel's formal document. Every payment, every transfer, every cost of lost investment. Beneath it, I wrote, Uncle Ben, I appreciate your concern. This document will explain everything. I've carried this family quietly for years, while being told there was no money for me. Meanwhile, Dad established a $350,000 trust for Brielle. I'm done pretending this is fair. His reply came within an hour. Holy hell, Naomi, I had no idea. None of us did. Your dad's been telling everyone he's helping both of you equally. This changes everything. The next evening, I got a call from Jared. Naomi, he said, there's another family meeting. This Saturday. Your dad's calling it to address what he's calling your deliberate damage to the family legacy. My throat tightened. He's rallying the uncles, trying to guilt you into resuming payments and covering all the late fees and penalties, Jared continued. But you need to be there. You need to set the record straight. I'll back you up again. I hesitated, anxiety gnawing at my stomach. But I knew Jared was right. They were still trying to rewrite the narrative, still trying to position me as the villain in their story. And this time, I wouldn't let them. On Saturday, I arrived 10 minutes early. Same living room, same worn rugs, same fireplace where my father loved to hold court. But this time, I walked in with a different energy. Power, control, truth. I wore a sharp navy suit, clean lines, no frills, and carried a small folder containing printed copies of every relevant financial document. When I entered, conversation stalled. My father, once again, was standing by the fireplace. We're here to discuss the growing tension in our family, he announced, particularly Naomi's recent choices that have impacted everyone. I let the silence stretch for a beat before speaking. You mean the part where I stopped being your personal ATM? A few relatives shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Lydia crossed her arms. We've all been under pressure, my father said smoothly. Families help each other. That's how we survive. I agree, I replied, but helping goes both ways. I have no issue with supporting family until it becomes exploitation. I passed out updated financial records. This time, I included an additional addendum, Brielle's trust fund contributions pulled from publicly available court records, proof that while I had been making sacrifices, they had been hoarding security for one child. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Aunt Lydia skimmed the document and looked up sharply. Russell, you told us Naomi was doing fine, that she didn't need help. She didn't, he snapped. She's always been the smart one. She made money on her own. That doesn't make it right, Uncle Ben interrupted. You can't reward one daughter's dependence and punish the other's success. My father's face turned red, but he said nothing. Then, Brielle spoke. I didn't know how deep it went, she said softly, until Naomi showed me the numbers. I always thought she just wanted to help. Aunt Lydia turned to me. Are you going to take legal action? No, I said. I'm not suing anyone. I'm not demanding more money. I just want everyone here to understand what's really happened and why I'm done pretending like it didn't. I looked at my father then. I won't be shamed for drawing a line. I've earned that right. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Uncle Ben nodded. Naomi, you're right. This family needs to change. That meeting didn't end in tears or screaming. It ended with truth. And that was enough. The next morning, my phone lit up with one final text from my father. Taxes are due. You're part owner now. You'll need to contribute. It was almost laughable. He still didn't get it. He still thought that a piece of paper proving my 25% stake meant he could reshackle me with responsibility, without accountability. But I was no longer playing by his rules. I didn't respond to my father's text. No acknowledgement, no explanation, just silence. Instead, I attached the notarized financial record again, the same one that had forced the family to see the truth, and circled the total in red, bold ink, $133,660. No message was necessary. A few hours later, my phone rang. Not my dad, not my mom, Brielle. Her voice sounded different, quiet, a little unsteady. I saw the photo, she said. Dad's shaken. I think it's finally sinking in. I didn't reply. I just waited. I had no idea you'd covered that much, she continued. He always told me you were helping here and there because you had extra. I didn't know you were paying major expenses. I nodded to myself, bitter but unsurprised. That's how manipulation works, I said. It's not always lies, it's selective truth. There was a long pause. Naomi, Brielle said. I feel terrible. You should. I want to fix it, she added quickly. Really fix it. What does that mean? I've already told Dad I won't accept another dollar from the trust unless it's shared equally. He fought me. Of course he did. But Uncle Ben and Aunt Lydia are on my side now. He's meeting with his financial advisor again tomorrow. My chest tightened. Not from tension, but from cautious relief. You're serious? I am, she said. It's not just about the money. It's what it represents. I don't want to be the reason our family keeps repeating the same cycle. For the first time, I believed her. Thank you, I said, and meant it. No, she replied. Thank you for finally making us face the truth. Over the next week, I heard very little from my parents, which, in truth, was a gift. Brielle followed through. She sent me a screenshot from her attorney. The trust was being restructured to include both of us, retroactively. My share of the funds would be released in installments over the next 12 months. I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I didn't even celebrate. Because it wasn't about winning. It was about finally being seen. Later that week, I received a message from my mother. Not a text. A handwritten letter. Something I hadn't seen from her since I was a child. Naomi, your father is struggling with this. He's never had to face himself like this before, but I want you to know. I see it now. I see all of it. The imbalance. The pressure. The way we leaned on you because we knew you wouldn't say no. I should have said something years ago. I should have stopped it, but I didn't. I'm sorry for that, and I'm proud of you. Love, Mom. I read it twice, then folded it neatly into my records folder, not to forgive, but to remember. That weekend, I did something I hadn't done in years. I drove to the lake house alone, not out of obligation, not because anyone asked, but because I needed closure. The property was quiet, early spring air still crisp against the pines. I walked the grounds, remembering summers filled with sunburns and s'mores and chilly late-night swims. I thought of all the ways I'd poured myself into this place, my time, my energy, my money, believing it bought me a seat at the table. And now, I didn't need anyone's permission to be there. I held ownership, not just on paper, but in spirit. I sat on the porch for a long time, watching the water glisten. I thought about everything that had happened, the betrayal, the exposure, the pushback, the reclamation. It had cost me years. It had cost me peace. But what I gained was so much greater. Freedom. Final reflections. Narration. I used to believe that being the strong one meant carrying the weight for everyone else. I thought selflessness meant silence, that love meant sacrifice. But here's what I've learned. Real strength is drawing the line. Real love has boundaries. And silence, when it hides injustice, is just another form of surrender. I'm Naomi Ellison. For years, I paid for peace. Now I live in it, on my own terms.